hello, everyone, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today I'm going to introduce a new segment to the We're Not Stumped podcast that I'm calling Headlines. And what I'm going to do is find 3 headlines to talk about every week and kind of discuss them with you. And what I would like from you is to put your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. If you're listening to this podcast on any other platform, thank you, and I appreciate that. But please, if you have an opinion about what I say, I'd like to hear it. The best place to do that for me is on YouTube. And while you're at the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe and give me 1 thumb up, because that's all they allow you. So here we go with the first headline. The first headline I thought was interesting is Michael Palin, Sir Michael Palin from Monty Python, says he still talks to his late wife, and it's a bit like losing a limb. Sir Michael Palin has opened up about his life without his late wife, Helen Gibbins, saying he still talks to her. The 81-year-old Monty Python star and travel documentarian announced in May of 2023 that his wife of 57 years died of kidney failure. She also suffered from chronic pain for several years. The couple had met on a beach in Suffolk when they were teenagers, and Gibbons variously worked as a teacher, a therapist, a bereavement counselor throughout her life. Now, Sir Michael was speaking on ITV's Good Morning Britain on Monday of June 24th of this year of 2024, and Palin said, "It's like you're a unit, and suddenly you're not a unit any longer, and it's a bit like losing a limb. You're not quite sure where you are." And the reason why I found his thoughts fascinating, first of all, I respect him and his work tremendously, and I send my condolences to him. This is not to judge the way he feels about losing his wife of 57 years. I think it's perfectly understandable. But the reason why I bring it up is because on the We're Not Stumped podcast and many other people that I've talked to, the thought of losing a limb is a lot like losing a loved one. So this is kind of the opposite way of looking at things. And I would just like other people's opinions on this, not to judge anyone. But what does that mean? Because I am a limb loss person that was born like this. I didn't have to go through losing a limb. But I've lost many, many loved ones. So I do understand that part of it. I want to add a little bit more of what he had to say. He added, I do hear her, and she has a great sense of humor. Sometimes I'll have something and I'll get back and tell her about it. Although she's not there, I know her reply and it makes me smile. I find myself idiotically in the sitting room on my own going, oh yes, that's good. Wow, she was great and we have good memories. So much of your own life is invested in that one person, so there was a huge slice of my life, which I can now really not access in the same way. It's just been over a year, but I get on with my work. That's the thing. And I hear Helen saying, get on with it. Go on. Stop messing about it. And a little bit further about them. The couple had 3 children and 4 great-grandchildren and had recently celebrated their 57th wedding anniversary just 2.5 weeks before her death. So again, very sad story. Matter of fact, big fan of his, like I said. If you haven't seen A Fish Called Wanda, you got to see that movie. But I can see where he's coming from on that. And one of the things he says, though, it's been over a year, and he hears his wife saying, get on with it. I'd be curious if anyone who's lost a limb hears things like that. Get on with it. Get on with it. I did have someone on recently that talked about they were told a good exercise is to create a diary or a goodbye letter to your limb before it was amputated, and that helps with the mental aspect of losing it. So again, like to hear your thoughts. Put them in the comments section on the YouTube channel. I'm Not Stumped, the official Mike Bolland channel. Love to hear from you. Second headline, courtesy of Blue Arbor. Blue Arbor goes beneath the surface for better control of limb prosthetics. Blue Arbor Technologies is developing implantable sensors to give patients better control of cutting-edge prosthetic arms and hands, with prosthetic exoskeleton applications in the future. In April of 2024, the FDA gave breakthrough device designation to Blue Apron's Restore neuromuscular interface system and enrolled it in the agency's total product life cycle advisory program to get the technology to patients faster. That's pretty cool. RESTORE is an acronym meaning reimagining engineering solutions to optimize restoration of extremities. Open invitation if anyone from Blue Arbor Technologies wants to come on to the We're Not Stumped podcast, the interview portion of the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'd love to hear from you. A quote from Dr. Paul Sedurna, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let me give you his quote. I have been performing research in the space primarily to try to enhance function for people with limb loss. That was driven by the patients I take care of on a daily basis who have horrible traumatic injuries, cancer operations, where they lose limbs, and other medical conditions that lead to limb loss. For me, it was entirely driven by a world where people with limb loss just were not getting what they needed to rehabilitate their lives and get back to where they were before. Great, noble cause. I think that's fantastic. One thing I have a question for the audience, for the We're Not Stumped audience. Would you implant something in your body to make it better for your prosthetic to work? Again, I am probably the worst person to answer that question because, number one, I don't wear a prosthetic currently. And number two, I never had a hand. So I don't know how that would work. I've never had to control a hand on my right side. But many people that I've had on the podcast and many people that listen to this podcast could benefit from this kind of technology. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments and go to we'renotstumped.com if you want to be a guest on my podcast. So let's go to headline number 3. Prototype smart socket shows promise for amputees' comfort. This comes from our friends at Amplitude Magazine. So go to Amplitude Magazine if you want to read the whole article on this. But let me give you a little rundown on this. A few years ago, Amplitude surveyed the latest breakthroughs in smart sockets, or sockets that auto-adjust in real time. This is for the fluctuations in size and shape of the residual limb. Such devices could reduce or eliminate the near universal aggravations that come with socket misfits, including blisters, sores, rashes, and circulatory problems. One of the research initiatives cited in that article from a few years ago by the University of Washington's motor-driven smart socket has reached the early testing phase, and the results, they're encouraging. In a new paper published last month by Nature Scientific Reports, the UW team shared the outcomes of the early trial involving the auto-adjusting socket. The prototype device offered two innovative models of real-time socket adjustment: manual adjustment via a smartphone application and automated adjustment by sensors embedded within the socket. And I'm going to quote someone, the author of the study. It doesn't have the name here. These advances have the potential to enhance prosthesis users' quality of life by reducing the mental and physical burden surrounding routine socket fit adjustments. And here's some data that kind of supports what he's talking about. The device was tested by 12 participants ranging from 35 to 78, with a median duration of 17 years post-amputation. 2 of the participants did not test the auto-mode adjustment. And I find that kind of fascinating. So someone decided they would sign up for a trial and then not use one of the adjustments. Here's what I'd say to anyone out there. If we're gonna be a group, a community within our community of amputees, and we're going to sign up for something like that, it's best for all of us to test everything. I don't know the reasons why they didn't, but it's interesting that 2 of the participants did not test the auto adjustment mode, which to me is probably one of the more important things on this kind of socket. But let me give you some of the data and some of the results that came in. 6 of the 12 participants had their highest daily step counts in the auto adjust mode. Of the 9 participants who tested all 3 of the modes, all 9 said they got the best fit from either auto adjust or the manual adjust mode. 9 of the 12 participants said they would use the smartphone-controlled manual adjustment feature if one were commercially available. 9 of the 12 also said they would use a device that monitored and logged the socket fit data in real time. And 10 of the 12 stated if they had logged the socket fit data and if that data was available, they would share it with their prosthetist, their physical therapist, and other clinicians. So that's pretty interesting stuff right there. Again, I don't wear a prosthetic any longer, and even being an upper amputee, sometimes that doesn't have an effect on us like it does the lower extremities. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on having something that would be an automatic fit using sensors or even a smartphone device. What is your thoughts on that? Leave them below. If you're listening again on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the other platforms, I extend a thank you for doing that. But go to the YouTube channel. Go to I'm Not Stumped at the official Mike Bolland channel and leave a comment. I want to know how you feel. That's it for this week. Two things. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, I'd love to have you. Go to we'renotstumped.com. Fill out the form. I'll get a hold of you. And number two, do you have a headline you would like me to discuss? Go to we'renotstumped.com. Fill out the form. Let me know. Leave it in the comments. And I'll do my best to give you my thoughts on that. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening.